I just finished reading Siddhartha by Herman Hesse. I read it in school when I was young, and I didn't remember a lot about it. But as an adult now, I wanted to read it again, and it just so hit home for me. It is exactly what I believe right now in my spiritual journey. And so I kind of wanted to unpack a few of the things that resonated with me in the book. Towards the beginning, the first thing that stood out to me was the Buddha. So it's Siddhartha is like a name for the Buddha, but it's not about the Buddha. It's about another guy, like making his own spiritual journey a lot like the Buddha. So they're similar in many ways, but he's growing up during the time of the Buddha, and he meets the Buddha on his journey. So the whole thing is like his life and journeying, and he was like brought up as in like a spiritual home, like the upper caste system. And so he knew all the Vedas, all the like religious texts, and he was always doing what he was supposed to be doing, the like sacrifices and the offerings and washings and all this stuff. And he decides to leave his home. So this is a spoiler alert, I guess, if you want to stop this and just read the book for yourself. But I'm just kind of like unpacking some ideas. So anyways, he decides to leave his upbringing and like that religious way, and he becomes like an Aztec, and he's just wandering and begging, and he learns how to fast and all kinds of stuff, and he's basically like numbing himself. Well, that wasn't good enough for him, and then they found out about the Buddha, and he goes and he does meet the Buddha, and his best friend decides to follow the Buddha, and he goes and has like a private meeting with the Buddha, and basically tells him that like, how can you have a teaching when you know you can't put into words what it's like to be illuminated, to like reach nirvana or whatever, to stop the cycle of rebirths is what they would call it. And just kind of has this confrontation with the Buddha, and of course the Buddha is very gracious and says, as you wish, like whatever your path and stuff. And so that was very bold of this young man, Siddhartha. And he ends up finding, peace and enlightenment and whatever, his own way, without teachings. And so that was something that really resonated with me, is that there's no way you can put things into words about God and the divine. It's like the ineffable mystery. It's the more you talk about it, the less you are correct, because words themselves are dualistic. And so that's a big theme in the book, is like teachings, words, all these things are just thoughts and ideas, and none of that is going to be totally one, because it's all about oneness. Like everything is one, everything is Brahman, source, and nirvana is basically just a thought or an idea or a word. It's not like a real thing. And part of their belief system is, I guess in Hinduism, Buddhism, or whatever, is that they live in a world of illusions, or like everything is illusion. And so there's this kind of like despising of the world and all worldly things. And the Buddha kind of taught like, don't love earthly things, don't fall and be fettered to things of the world. And at one point, Siddhartha says, I don't care if it's an illusion or not. Loving the world is salvation, basically. Sorry, I'm kind of rambling a bit, but whether things are semblances or not, I too am a semblance. So yeah, like the ego, our ego isn't real. Our bodies, like who I am is not necessarily this. So loving the world in a way is, whether it's real or not, is the same way as like I myself am existing as if I am real, even though like who I am is not this. So loving the world and embracing it as it is, instead of like hating it, like, oh, this world is awful. I felt like a lot of it was like so similar to my clashings with Christianity. Like the clashings he has with Buddhism are, and his upbringing and stuff like that, and the teachings of his day from the Buddha are the same like clashings I've had. It's like ultimately all things are one. So that's like, it's hard to explain, but okay, going back to what I wanted to say in the beginning was when you hear them talk about the Buddha, I thought that the Buddha was very similar to Christ. Like he had disciples. He was traveling with no food or home. He had a teaching. It was like the gospel. He his followers had to renounce their home, their parents, their background, property, friendships. So like that's what Jesus said, like you have to forsake everything and follow me. Like kill yourself. He means kill the ego self. So yeah, I just saw the Buddha was very similar to Christ. And I thought that was interesting because and also I saw like so many similarities between like Gnosticism and Christianity and Buddhism in here. I'm making a video. And like there's a lot about like, being born again and your awakening. That whole idea I think is in Christianity too, but we would see it as a spiritual thing, but they would say it was a spiritual thing too. They believe in reincarnation. It's so much similar to me now that I'm not in Christianity to try and see it. And you really get to see Siddhartha go through he has multiple deaths and awakenings, and you can see how those take place for him. But I think towards the end, what really resonated with me and some thoughts I've had recently is manifestation, like the material world that we live in, and whether it is illusion or not illusion, and thoughts and opinions, like not being important. And what he really amplifies is that we can learn from the river, we can learn from a rock, we can learn from the bark on a tree, the animals, the stars, all of nature. And like the material world is not this thing that's lacking in substance and you can't learn from anything. And that's kind of the opposite of what we would think, like, oh, in order to grow spiritually, I need to read religious texts and have teachers and mentors and have all these words. I need to go to conferences. And to me, I'm getting really burnt out on words, like so many trying. And I think that's why I read this, is because it's not trying to, it's fiction, it's not trying to teach me something. I've been reading a lot of Richard Rohr books, and I was just getting so burnt out on him, but I had already like bought 6 books that I kind of was trudging through. And he uses so many words, and I feel like it's counterintuitive because he believes exactly like what this is showing, but he just uses so many words to like go around the same point that everything is one. And the only thing that really exists is the present moment. So, yeah, I feel like that's what I like about this, is that it was just a story of someone getting it, and he didn't need a teacher. All he needed was his own life, his own journey. He went through a time of like really sinful pleasures of being in the world and just like hitting rock bottom and being disgusted with himself, wanting to kill himself. And then he lost that still small voice inside of him, that intuition that he always had. And then in his lowest point, he heard it again, the voice, and it said Om, which is like completion, it's everything. And it was coming from the river, and it saved him, it saved his life. And the following of the teachings was paramount. Was he realized, I do not need a teacher. Like, life itself will teach me, nature itself will teach me, because words themselves are dualistic. Once you say a word, you've divided it between this or that, and it can't be this or that. He says at one point, what you say is truth, the opposite is also true, because that's the nature of reality. So that's what really resonated with me, is that words, thoughts, teachings is like, I'm overwhelmed with all of these, trying to conceptualize God into a religion, a creed. This is what God is, and this is what He's not. He has to be this and not, and it's like, God is creation. God is manifestation. I look around, I see God, the beauty before me of nature and human beings. I just went to a women's circle 2 nights ago, and one of the girls was saying some quote about, like, if you are with another person, you are in the presence of the divine, which I do believe is true, because I believe everyone is divine. All things, animals, nature, everything is divine. And one of the other girls said, that makes you think of the Bible verse, where 2 or more are gathered, there you are also. It's the exact same way. And I was like, yes, I was thinking that same verse when she said that. And so that's what I see now, is like, everything is teaching me, all life. And it's teaching me not in words, not in thoughts, not in anything that I could explain. It's a mystery. The experience itself, the experience of the material world, is the path, is the teaching, the experience. So fully experiencing my life, being present, not being absent-minded on my phone, because I feel like every time I get sucked into my phone, I've like lost time out of my life, and my brain just got fried for like however long I was looking at my phone. So I've been trying to not look at my phone as much lately. And but yeah, as I'm being present in the present moment, not worrying about the past, not dwelling on the past, not worrying about the future, but being fully present in what is going on right before my eyes, because it's always a teaching moment. It's always God, it's always divine. That the journey is the teaching, the experience is the teaching. Life and the manifestation of life appearing before us in its full beauty, its full pain, darkness, love, hate, all these things. That is Brahman, that is God, that is life, that is always worthy of adoration and love. It's the loving of the dark things that's hard for us, because we want to differentiate between good and evil. But that's what God said, do not do. Don't eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, which is showing a judgment between this or that, and dualistic thinking, when all things are ultimately one. There's always a lesson that we can learn from the darkness. So this is very opposite from Gnosticism, Gnosticism would say this material world is evil. It was created by an evil demiurge god. And Christianity has a lot of that in there. A lot of Christians want to say that Gnosticism is bad, but they're founded on that. The Apostle Paul was very Gnostic in nature. If you read the Gnostic text and compare it to Paul's writings, they're very similar. He calls in the King James Version, he calls the bodies our vile bodies. And, he talks about this present evil world and things like that being controlled by the devil. So there's this kind of like hatred for worldly things, earthly things, our carnal bodies, and that like, oh, we're just going to get glorified bodies. We're going to get a brand new earth when Jesus, it's like this waiting for this different, separate time instead of enjoying the now, because he's saying right now is evil and our bodies are evil and blah blah blah. That's very Gnostic in nature. And like, oh, everything's an illusion. So I used to think that way, but now I am very much believe this is good. Creation is good. Original goodness instead of original sin, because God said he created and then he said it was very good. Everything was good. So everything was created good. And I don't believe in original sin, like that sin passed upon all men, that we've all inherited sin, and I don't think there's anything fundamentally bad or wrong with me. And desires are just desires. So yeah, I honor life now as I see it. I honor my body now as I see it. I don't see it as evil, fleshly. I listen to my heart because I have a regenerated heart. I believe everybody has a regenerated heart they can listen to, their true self that hasn't been brainwashed or told like, oh, don't trust your heart because the heart is deceitfully wicked, like it says in Jeremiah. Because I read the New Testament says that, and also in the Old Testament, he said, I will give you a new heart. I will circumcise your hearts to be able to love me with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. So that's possible. And there's nothing you have to do to attain that heart. You just kind of have to get underneath all of the brainwashing of religious doctrines and things like that in your upbringing. It tells you not to trust yourself. So yeah, I trust myself now. I honor myself. I honor my body. I honor nature as it is. And I don't think our world is just going to be destroyed one day when Christ comes back. I don't think Christ is coming back the way that we think. I think he's coming back within people all the time. Every day he comes back more and more. So yeah, that's just some of my thoughts about reading Siddhartha. It was really good. I really, really enjoyed it. It really shows the oneness that I believe in, of all things being ultimately connected, ultimately one. There's no time. He talks about that. Those are secrets that the river taught him, that time doesn't exist and all things are one. And yeah, just embracing like the love of life itself and not trying to hate everything. And forsaking all religious teachings. And yeah, just learning from nature, learning from the river. It was so beautiful the way he learned from the river. So, peace.